Woo. Okay. All right. Office hours 23. We're here. 12 p.m. It's been a week. Yeah. No, go ahead, Tim. No, you can start. Put the hand. Yeah, we can do it. Ni hao.
Neil.
We see you. There we go. Beautiful. All right. Okay. Vatzel, clicking in the back, has had, well, it's been a week. So we can maybe talk a little bit about that. I know that was, Tim was thinking a bit about too. Get together every week, 12 p.m., have a lot of fun, discussions, conversations. We do like a weekly kickoff meeting, and then we also do some little stand-ups in the morning. But we don't actually, we try to avoid as many meetings as possible. It's just, I find people get distracted. It takes up your time. And then depending on where those meetings are set up, it can sort of wreck this idea of flow states and really getting some work done that you want. So glad that we're able to do that, but always look forward to these on Friday. Maybe a quick round of introductions because we shape shift every week and have slightly different introductions. But I'm Tyler. Right now, I am. What am I doing? Just focused on solving problems. Love solving problems. I like when sometimes I like the more complex they are, but then I also don't like when they are a little bit past my own brain power, which does happen. I've realized. So I'm doing my best to navigate through that. Lucky to have great people around me who fill those gaps in my brain, and some of you are here today. So go ahead, whoever wants to jump in and say a quick intro.
I missed you. Been a couple of weeks since last time I saw you and talked with you and on office hours, and it's always different energies. As you've said, it's shape-shifting collective here, but at the same time, I would start. My name is Timothy, but happy birthday, Lauren! You had a birthday yesterday.
Exactly. Yes, Lauren. It looks so mature. Look at that guy.
360 days more of wisdom. Right, I'm an engineer, and for the past couple of weeks been heads down on some problems we've been having, and it's gladly these were designed, and as I presume we've lured to that, you've alerted to that in previous office hours, is that there's a lot of work now that has been done in that's been pre-designed, and it's a learning experience, but yeah, I'll
beautiful. And Tim's got shorter hair than last time he was here, but I like it. I miss your long hair, but I also like your short hair. So, and it's really not that short objectively. It's still quite long. So thanks for joining, Tim. We're glad to have you back, buddy.
Okay. Hey, I'm Lauren. I'm doing the finances and the accounting here at Speak. I like dealing with numbers, usually like financial related numbers. I'm really bad at calculus, to be honest, but that's for scientists and whatnot. So not terribly relevant to what we're doing. And yeah, I like words too.
And Lauren, just, your birthday, we will not reveal your age, but, you look great. You're a smart man, wise, you bring wisdom every day. Also enjoyed following you on Twitter. Wise words on through Tweet Game. Maybe some people don't put tweets and wisdom together, but there can be lots of wisdom that comes through that medium. So thank you for sharing your insights and perspective. I've enjoyed it a lot.
Thanks. I'm trying to be more active on there. I try and avoid social media as much as possible, but sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad.
There we go. All right, and last but not least,
hey, Nihal here, digital strategist, marketer, writer, here at Speak. Yeah, I mean, it's been a while, couple of weeks. We've all kind of kept our heads down. It's been quiet around the virtual office, but it's been a good time, and we've got some exciting things ahead.
Beautiful. Okay. Does anyone have a place they want to start? Anything burning right now?
It'd be one of the best things that have one of the things that I'd love to share here and just address. It's that we're definitely it was a several weeks long sprint. It was a hard one, and I did work on Fridays. Just didn't tend because it was a pile of things, and gladly the pile of things that made sense. And now I thought about recovery and thought, well, how do you even work 5 days a week and sort of recover 2 days a week? And how do you do that? And my girlfriend came up, well, how about we go to Niagara? And then, and it was, I'm sharing this a little personal story, but I'll relate that back to a good lesson that it really stems from the fact that one of the best things that had happened in the past 2 years due to COVID was that the decentralized workforce became real, and that we're so disconnected, not the right word, but yes, away and not in the short loop with the team. Bad and a good thing. But the good aspect of this is that work hard and play hard becomes somewhat of a analogy that you can use to explain how would you spend your weekends. But then behind this all, and been doing this for 3 weekends, it was out there in forest and just doing forgot my phone and computers at home thing. Maybe the best thing that could be said about to expand on this is that this analogy doesn't really apply. You can't play hard all the weekends and get back on Monday and still be completely operational. But on part it's true, and the part where recovery is important is true. I would argue that recovery is not just weekends. Recovery is every day. And everyone who listens here and does decentralized work, works from home or otherwise, can afford to manage their own time and environment if you have control over your environment. It's something that is worth looking into. If you have an opportunity to manage recovery once a day, have a good night of sleep, wind down well, or have a recovery one every hour. That is something that I overlooked it. Do not know about statistics, but there is so much power behind being well rested and to the point and being present. Presence is everything, and presence with work and presence in with yourself and your partner and life overall. So I would just say that we're truly lucky here, and thank you for facilitating this, Tyler, and everyone here on the team, because we're all contributing to this and making this work for everyone. It's the beautiful part, and I hope a good note to start this conversation from.
Okay. Wow. Timothy comes back with a vengeance. Love it. I think, especially here, we're lucky because we get to do things that are things that are exciting for our mind. We get to solve problems together, but at the same time, you realize, that's not something to play with. Like there is the possibility of burnout, and when you're trying to solve complex problems or you're pushing too hard on those limits, you can burn yourself out temporarily or long term. Or I think the worst thing is you lose enjoyment for the work that you're doing. And like even it's been a pretty tight last couple of days, but yesterday, instead of sort of sitting on that, Vatsal and I and his friend Monica, we went and sat down by the water and just enjoyed some time. And that, that's a refresher, helps you reset, and then allows you to come back to work with more energy than if you had just tried to push through and persevere. And I find that especially early in my career, I didn't respect that. I didn't care. I would just always keep pushing, and that was not a helpful or healthy thing. And I think there's been two sides of, technology, which has obviously been great to allow us to disconnect in a good sense and allow us to work in our own environments. But then there's also the other part of the Slack messages at night, or the constant communication that can happen after work hours when you should be taking time for yourself and resting and restoring, as you've mentioned. So I see both the positives and I think the negatives, and my hope is that even if something's popping up that you don't feel responsible, if you need your time and recovery and rest, that you can take that time. We really do try to honor that because it's best for everyone.
Definitely depends like what kind of work you're doing, because some work can really wear you out and bring you down. Some work can really energize you. It's kind of like the difference between introversion and extroversion, where introversion, it's more you're tired from being around people, but extroversion is like you get some pep in your step from being around people and talking all the time. And I guess that's like all the different type of work too. If you find that you're you know creating more, writing, organizing, keeping other people organized, micromanaging maybe, that can wear you down or either bring you up. So it'd be interesting to see if like we have our toggle reports where we're tracking like the time of like what we actually do day to day. But if it was like a mood score from that actual job, it can really help you to prioritize the work that really pushes you forward, and try and find someone else to do the work that brings you down. But I don't know. That's probably getting a bit too nitty into the details there. Maybe sometime in the future there would be some sort of AI that's tracking how happy you are while you work, which is also kind of dystopic, but whatever.
That's coming. It's already here. And Nihal introduced me to the term. I didn't know. I'd never heard of it, but ambivert, which is toggling in between extroverted and introverted, which I thought was such a interesting concept. Any thoughts on this? I mean, I like what you said about like it was a very quiet Slack environment over the last couple of weeks. Any thoughts from your side on this? I know you've come in from a sort of a different environment, but still, I don't even know exactly how big that team is, into obviously a much smaller team where there's tasks floating around all the time. So I guess a perspective shift has maybe come for you in this regard.
Yeah, for sure. I think one thing that I feel might contribute to some level of feeling lost, or maybe stress in a way that might not exist at a larger company, let's say, or like an established, or like a like a long-term established business. One of the big things is depending on how invested you are in the growth of the company, I feel like every little decision obviously is amplified, right? So one mistake is equivalent of like 20 mistakes at a larger company, right? But then similarly, like one big win, it is greatly amplified as well. And I feel like sometimes that contributes to maybe like extreme highs and extreme lows, especially within the startup space, where you might land a huge client one day and then lose out on a funding round the next day, right? And so it's like, on one hand you've one step forward, on the other hand something's pushed you back twice. But then at the same time, the cool part about being in such a small working towards being agile team is the fact that we can congregate as a team and kind of determine the next steps, see what's best for everyone. It's definitely a lot more open. And I feel like that also comes with its pros and cons, right? Where you hope that everyone can express their viewpoints equally. And I think we do a pretty good job of trying to enforce that as well, where everyone has a voice. And yeah, overall, it's funny because I was actually talking with some of my friends last week about how I think, as much as I don't mind working from home, at the same time, I got so used to working with people that even if it's just sitting in the same room and like working with like a buddy, right? To kind of just be in this these four walls are my world now. So it'll be nice when we can potentially have a couple more in-person work sessions and kind of build more camaraderie as well. It'd be pretty sweet. Get some drink more bubbly water together.
Yeah, I agree with that. I love working with people. I miss that a lot. And even at Innovation Works, where our office was in London, like it was not just our team that we were interfacing with; it was other organizations and companies. So you just learn so much, and just to feel that energy there was amazing. I'll just add one other part from mine has been like this, like the toggling between different tasks of different nature. So like some days in the morning, I'll try to start with something more complex or pretty, cognitive load of, some pretty intense emails or something that are going. I guess you shouldn't say that an email is a heavy work, but it is depending on how you're structured. Yeah. It's, and then like later in the day, if you've pushed your mind a bit, then you start to go to tasks that are maybe a little bit more automated in your brain, where you can sort of lower that cognitive load and just get something done that's more practical. So I found that like shifting or cycling in between those has been very helpful, but we don't always have that luxury. And I think, Neil, just one thing for you is just like, I think sometimes actually the openness of what you are capable of doing, like I don't, we don't come into every day and it's like, Nihal, you've got to do this. It's like I get to choose what I want to do today. And
Exactly.
I think that can actually add a lot of stress to people. It's just like, I don't want to make this decision. I just want to be told what to do. And I mean, you've done a great job sort of adapting. Of like in the start I was like, let's get this, and now I'm like, you know what, Nihal, I trust you, go ahead. I think you're prioritizing right. But that can be sort of fear inducing and add a whole other weight to every sort of decision or moment that you're taking in the day. And just lastly, overall, like, my history and what I care deeply about is just this idea of the of mental health and also being like the best versions of ourselves. So like anything that interferes with that, that's going to happen naturally in a startup environment. And as your company's growing, pushing tech to the edge, trying to do as much as you can, but overall prioritize that, because if that's not there, then nothing else is there. So just keeping that in mind.
And I think just feeding off that, like maybe as a final point to this particular discussion is, I remember like reading about basically the whole concept of like, your one big thing, right? Like, and trying to just do that one thing in the day that you can define as, success, and kind of using that as almost like a North Star metric just for your day, right? Because some days we're operating at 120% and other days we're at 40, right? But it's like, regardless of where you might be, how do you kind of at least make that, I think Vatzel said this in the past too, that 1% improvement that day, and that 1% contribution, even if you weren't able to hit the 5% you wanted to hit. And yeah, I mean, here's hoping I mean, summer's here, so that always makes everyone feel a bit nicer.
Yeah, for sure. Tim, Lauren, any other thoughts on this topic specifically? 3, 2, 1. Take guys no. All right. Okay. One last part of that, I think I was like that idea of like eat the frog first, which is like do the hardest thing in the day first, and then everything else feels better after that. Sometimes the frog is too big though, and sometimes like I need to eat a couple little tadpoles before I can get to that frog to get me some traction and momentum into the day. Lauren, it's your birthday. So I feel like, it's past your birthday, but it was your birthday. You've got a topic here. We are missing a couple core pieces to our team right now. He is doing squats as he's waiting for an environment to load on the computer. But Lauren, maybe just any thoughts on this and sort of, I guess, an unofficial topic for today without, of course, the Grandmaster Vatzel here.
That's quite right. We are wrapping up our second quarter of 2021, heading into quarter 3. So I just want to ask all of you, how did you feel about the last quarter? Did you get everything done that you wanted to get done? Anything you weren't too happy about? Just curious about how you feel about the last 3 months, and especially for like Nihal too, because this is his first 3 months with the company altogether. So just wanted to learn, where we can improve. I think you all did a very good job, anyways, from my perspective. There's a lot of improvements from Tim on the website, like as the actual app, and also from Nihal on the actual, marketing front of the website. So it's always good to see the actual work that you put in and the changes that are happening there. You don't really see that too much in accounting. You don't really hear too much from accounting unless there's like a mistake or a problem. So.
Okay. Who wants to go first there? Big ass, Lauren. Timothy.
I mean, sure, I can go. Quarter 2. I think one of the biggest things that's been good about this, and I think the first month was mildly overwhelming just in terms of learning about the company, learning about the app, figuring what we wanted to do exactly out. And then, month 2, it kind of got better. And then month 3 was not bad, but it was just like it was a lot of it was quite a drastic, not drastic shift, but I think it was a bit of a shift from maybe what we'd set out to do from the very start, in some ways. But overall, I think we've all, for the most part, achieved most of our goals that we set out to achieve initially. If we are just going to talk about OKRs, there are some things I think, like, there were probably some assumptions made at the start that maybe weren't acted out on, but they were kind of replaced with other initiatives that are hopefully working to move Speak forward. On the personal front, I think it's been great that I'm not just stuck doing like maintenance work, and I actually get to like create, which is nice. Um, I've I think I was looking to Speak, like I was, because I just finished drafting a bunch of pages, and I've officially hit like, I think 20 pages created on Speak. So I mean, strange metric, but it's like it's nice to kind of see your work, the output, and on the results front and the KPIs front, like we've actually seen decent performance on some of the things like I've worked on, which is nice to see. And it's inspiring me as well to kind of keep track of these little experiments we do, and like these potentially these potential acquisition channels we build out, and using that partly as just a personal growth tool, but I think it can also feed back into Speak's future expertise, and like content we can put out, things that we can actually use to move the Speak brand forward, which I think is cool. It's not something you get to do every day. At most larger companies where it's just like, hey, yeah, like here's our goal, like go. Right, like do what you think needs to be done to hit this goal, and obviously along the way you hit some setbacks, but you also achieve victories as well along the way, which makes it worthwhile. um, and yeah, I mean, it's been a great 3 months. Definitely been enjoying my role here, enjoying my time here. It's exciting to think about the future as well, and what maybe our roles grow into, what kind of responsibilities we might have coming on our plates in the next next quarter, next 2 quarters, and thinking about how that'll impact our dynamic, and even how that impacts our, like, the overall business model moving forward.
Beautiful. It's a good start. Timothy, how about you, sir?
Right. I have 2 conflicting ideas, but I'll try to this quarter went very interestingly. Leon joined, and it was the moment where my perspective changed, and the perspective not changed, but just missing pieces were put in place, and this excitement of this is it. This excitement sometimes, well, it's a good and a bad thing once again, and the hard work it ensued, and it was. I'm sure everyone has these moments when, yes, this is the right thing, and when it's too much, you fly too high in the sky. And I want to allude to Myth Icarus. The sun burned, melted the wax, and the guy fell into the ocean. But for me, it was literally, I burnt myself in Niagara Falls, and have have regenerated a new skin on top. But that's that is to say, and to bring it back to speak is to, we can't do all, but we can do some things right. And when you do realize which things you can do and which things are viable to the business, are feasibly correct, and ultimately achieve the North Star, just make the product better. These moments are something that I hope every company should have, these innovative, these slivers of innovation that just happen throughout time and throughout bringing new people on board. Bringing new people on board has always been, well, I don't have much experience to say, but to say this confidently, but people you meet are wealths of information, and when they want to help you, that's these are called friendships. Yeah, great quarter. I'm definitely looking forward to the next quarter. For let's do another round of what you want in the next quarter instead. I don't want to start that yet.
And Lauren, I don't know if you have more to share, Lauren. Do you have more, or did you give it when you asked the question, or do you have anything more on your reflection on the last quarter?
Well, just going based on like our OKRs, I feel like I probably did the worst of everybody. I feel like I didn't really meet too many of what I was setting out to do, just mostly because um, I don't really want to blame other people, but it's you talk to other people and they say, no, let's not do that. And it's like, okay, well, I guess I didn't succeed. So it's more a matter of just waiting, I guess, for the next quarter to come along. But it doesn't, things like those don't really just fall into your lap, really. You kind of have to keep on building on top of it and giving it enough time over a while. So there's a lot of like things I was planning on doing like this quarter that was probably going to just be bleeding over into the next quarter. Also, a lot of perspective just gained from certain metrics that we've been looking at too. Like this past 3 months, we've been really looking more into retention, just based on like the software. Like I'm always just looking on metrics of like the finances, but to actually see, the behaviors of people actually using it really brings into perspective like what people use it for and how often they use it, and then you kind of have to mold the whole business around those different personalities and behaviors. Um, so it's a lot to consider. It's a lot of expectations kind of being broken down in a way, and being open to the reality of the other people that we're trying to carry towards. I don't know. You kind of have like you build up the customer, you build up the investor, you build up the grant giver, and what you think they're going to do, and you learn a lot because it's always it's never how you think it's going to turn out. So um, yeah, and that could possibly be on us too. We could probably be better communicators. Possibly, I don't know. There's always room for improvement, but it's not a just because there's room for improvement doesn't mean that you're bad in any way. It's just more it's not like a failure. It's more just an opportunity. Um, just constantly. I don't think there's ever like you're never going to be a perfect communicator. There's always just going to be something you can always nitpick and you know not be down on, but just aim for something better, I suppose. So going into this new quarter, um, I think there's just a lot of things I need to do, just as far as like stepping out of the comfort zone, doing things that you don't want to do, but it's just a matter of setting your mind to it. Because if you jump into like a workflow of I really don't like this work, I'd rather not do it, and you kind of just half-ass it just to get out of the way. That's more so on you. It's more just a matter of shifting your mindset, and you got to find out how to shift your mindset really, which is usually just through um, again just expanding your perspective through certain means, different means. I don't know.
Getting wiser every day, Lauren. Love it. I think, you know, the part that you just talk about is just the constant improvement. I experienced that a lot when I was first building websites or designing whatever I was doing, putting those things together on the web. And I would like build a website, finish the project, and I would look at the website 4 days later and be like, God damn it, you know, because you just hated it already. It was like you realized through that process, you learned so much of how you would take that whole thing on again if you had known what you know now. And I think that's life. And you know, I just look at these OKRs and what we talked about, like completely restructuring the pricing plan, building our first ever onboarding experience, free trial automation. None of this was included in the OKRs, and so there was a lot that every time it's like we're getting better. I do see more green in the OKRs every time, but then it's not only that; it's the 15 things that were on top of that that we hadn't even considered that were also generally executed and completed pretty good. Pretty good. So like that's exciting to me. I think we get better at planning but also worse at predicting the future. I don't know if that makes sense, but like now even some of the great work that Nihal has done has led to, for example, inbound leads and live chats and people coming out of nowhere, who you could never predict. You just don't know those things, and that then makes you have to really want to have that structure of what you want to get accomplished, but then be willing and humbled that you need to adjust and prioritize as best you can, on the spot. And like, I'll just a couple of things for us, like at the start of before Q3 or Q2 started, I think we had what we were looking at was almost like 150 to 200K in grants in our pipeline that we were like pretty confident about, and just at start of the quarter was just like bye-bye. And you know that changes a lot of things too, right? So there's so many factors, so many things can modify everything that you're doing. And I guess just if I take a second to reflect on the quarter, I think, yeah, as we've alluded to here, the last month, the fifth from the fifth, well, even this week too, but like from the time we tried to take on this onboarding the free trial part, like that was probably the longest sprint that I've ever been a part of like, wow, this is exhausting. And I could feel that for myself, and I could feel that for the rest of the team. However, we've also now, I've even been on a couple team onboardings or watch people sign up for the application at, like on the call with them, and the onboarding is beautiful and the app looks better, and there's help documentation that we can send links out to any time that are actually helpful. Like that difficulty and reaps rewards as you go. And so I hope that we continue to see that. Q3, I shouldn't say that is in that way is still a little unclear for me. You know, I'm trying to figure out the best way to do this. And one of the topics that I was, even gonna talk about today was like focusing on investors or focusing on customers, or and one last part that I think connects to Tim's what he was talking about earlier is like Vatzel is taking a much deserved vacation next week, and like his sort of request, and I think is a good request, is I want to take that vacation and then come back and really start to structure out what the rest of the quarter looks like. And I think that ability to detach for a bit, to then come back with a refreshed mind and more clarity, instead of trying to do it too early when we're not quite ready and we've just come off this big sprint, is a good idea, even if it starts to bleed into the quarter a little bit. So my hope is that we don't feel completely unclear, and we know what things we can do that make an impact, but still some work to do from like an overall prioritization and where do we want to take this. I'll just blend this in. I'll merge this in with two of the topics. One of the topics actually, which is, for example, there's two projects right now that could be relatively significant, which are great. But the idea is that they require like customization. Like they like the foundational part of our application, but there's things that we add on top. And what I've noticed is even the reason why we've had potential to win these contracts and relationships is some of the vendors that they went to weren't even responsive to request, or wouldn't even have a call and consider any of the things that they were hoping to have as part of the system. So I guess what I'm trying to figure out and trying to understand is, we're looking at setting up this quarterly plan. What do we want to build versus what do people who are coming to us as, as customers or prospective customers, what do they want, and how do we proceed? Like that's one of the things I'm trying to figure out right now. Do we put this rigid structure of our of the plan for software that we want, and then we just continue build, and if you like the product then you like it, and if you don't then find another fit? Or do we try to customize the platform to fit needs, and at what point does that dilute the product and make it not valuable for some of our core users or some of the markets that we're planning to go after? So that's sort of my question. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that.
Depends on how much differentiation you want between like actual enterprise clients, which seems to be like in our stage the most fruitful thing to work towards, and like how much of that's going to bleed over into subscriptions, which is just kind of come as you are, self-serve. This is what you get. I don't know. It depends a lot on like who you're working with. If you like them, if you understand their pains, if you understand what their workflow is looking like, and a lot of the times it's for things that we don't really know about. So it's a lot of time and exploration of talking to them and figuring out how they actually work through everything. And just also like the causes that they're into, like what they're like, why they're working and what they're working. If you can kind of resonate with that, maybe it's a matter of just resonating with as many people as possible, finding the common ground everywhere. But yeah, it's a shift of the mind. It's an understanding of who you really want to be helping out. It's not really about the money at that point. Then it's about your time, and how much you, I suppose, care for the same causes here. So I don't know. There's a lot of nuance to it depending on like who you're talking to. The customers or the higher level customers of they need a lot more, but they're also willing to give a lot more and contribute and discuss a lot more. Or if there's just random people from Australia who pop in and berate you.
Yell at you on live chat.
I mean, to feed off of that, I feel like these are two separate. When we talk about let's say like market segmentation or customer segmentation, this almost becomes a conversation of right now, right? Our dev team is 2 people, right? So when it comes to creating custom solutions, at this point in time, a lot of the what's the word I'm looking for? The compromise sometimes comes with, do we work on improving this baseline product that we're building that may or may not pay dividends from like a subscription perspective, or do we take on these enterprise contracts where it's a bit more manual work in terms of figuring out these custom solutions, but they tend to be larger influx, like a larger influx of cash for us, which it balances out sometimes the maybe lost opportunity that could have gone into just improving the kind of consumer pay as you are, pay as you go subscriptions we have. And when it comes to your customer service, customizing for customers, I do think at our stage, considering that we don't have the the financial resources that large companies might have, for instance, it's our almost like our humanity or our personalized touch that I think will really help us at least win over our initial like a legion of initial supporters. And hopefully through some of those interactions we figure out features, or we figure out use cases that we might have not even thought of, that end up feeding into other parts of the business, right? Whether that's outreach, or that's creating content, and yeah, it's tough because you sacrifice either way, right? But it's a matter of making a calculated guess as as part of the leadership team about where that risk is worth whether that risk is worth taking or not. And hopefully, if at some point we're able to grow our team, that kind of becomes a decision that becomes easier, where we might even have dedicated reps or to create these custom solutions, while we have another team that works on just building out our base product as well.
Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be
nice.
wonderful? Tim, any thoughts? I mean, you've been spending a lot of time customer research, product-led growth. Yeah, how do you feel about this part? And I'll just a couple of things to add some context. Like Tim did an awesome job where we got some custom requests from a customer, and they and Tim tried to frame it as what's the problem they're having, and does that problem apply to other people across the system? And just interestingly, the team that was asking for these requests, they've got 30 plus people, and at our highest plan right now, we had 10 people. So all of a sudden, there is then the range of problems that comes from managing that many files at once and that many people at once. And so the thought is, how can we apply requests from them across the entire platform that are valuable, that don't just convolute the product until it becomes a Frankenstein, which would be wonderful. That would be nice. And we need some UX and UI to do that. And then if they ask for a custom request, just as a simple example, is like, on the embeddable recorder, we need X, Y, and Z input forms. We need to collect this information because it's valuable to our business. And instead of just hard programming those in, which wouldn't make sense for other people, then do we have to go beyond and actually look into the future and say, what if we give everyone the ability to customize the fields that they ask for in the embeddable recorder? So it becomes a flexible solution instead of just a hard-coded solution that is very specific to one business or use case. So those are some of the opportunities, but then the challenges, and you might be making a pretty significant investment to make that happen and hoping that it pans out. And if you're trying to be responsive to one customer, you might not have the time to do the validation across all the customers to do it. So Tim, sorry, that
Oh, you read my mind here. You really did, in terms of course, that I didn't spend merely enough time to have understood the all the presumptions that are made and what are the real issues that they're having. It's not something you can precisely do on a spreadsheet in one evening, and that is, however, that's the great thing that we're taking this as into consideration, the fact that, well, these custom solutions may not be applicable to everyone else, every other persona we're serving. And honestly, personas we're serving, they themselves, there is so much research that could be useful, potentially. And this research is the product market fit, from which the strategy to build things stems. And I don't need to explain any of this because you guys expanded on this quite well. Strategy is current strategy is to have this balance between customizable solutions and big cash flow, and on the other end, you would want to still strategize about your product for a long run. And that's it. Can't add much. That's what we're on the brink of discovering, I would say.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I know there's things that, like, personally, if we had the whole expansive team, and I think your model changes, for example, if you get an injection of flow of cash through a grant or fundraising, then you can also be, I would say, even more, you don't have to be more, but you can be more restrictive of who you accept as a customer, in a way. And not to say that, like, for us, it's not like we just say yes to everyone. There are things that we've said no to because it doesn't make sense, but they're also like, if I come in with this request, this is 80% fit, and then we want to do a couple things, it's a hard moment to say no, especially if you see the prospects of growth, or you can grow along with that company, or you're solving a problem for them. It feels good to, be an adolescent system that all of a sudden someone says, wow, this is pretty good. Can you do X and Y? And I like, this is going to be perfect. And it's like, okay, well, I guess so. Right. So, I have these, dreams dating back from when we first started this 2018. I see Trello cards from 2019 of like what I want to have in the system, but capacity, resources, and then just also sometimes those dreams that you have are not necessarily solving the problems for the customer in that moment, so you have to sort of make that compromise and you push them to the back burner with the goal that one day you can make all those things come to reality. Tim's smiling. He knows the kind of stuff that is, again, maybe not as practical, but it will be one day. It will be there. So that's wonderful. We've got a couple minutes left. We'll go one last topic. Nihal, I didn't steal your topic, but I wrote it because we've been sort of trying to get to it in the last couple office hours, but never did. So do you have any thoughts on your side? Want to maybe open this up?
Sure. So, just going back to the earlier point about being able to experiment and come up with, certain ideas that we've we thought would have an impact, and turns out that we're right. That's always great. And one main channel that's been for us, for instance, is this whole alternatives page strategy, where uh, we've we set ourselves up in a way where we're trying to be informative about the different choices a customer might have when it comes to trying to solve a particular problem, and trying to be as transparent as possible while still, like hyping ourselves up a little bit, uh, to get them to at least give us a try, over some more uh, established programs, established software, that is out there. And one thing that I've found, for instance, is from let's say our alternatives page, for instance, is the fact that we've discovered that since, like I'll name drop, but like Otter's blown up, there's been this massive explosion in search volume for like an Otter API, right? And from my understanding, from what I've seen in like interviews and like just Otter news releases, they have no plans to release an API anytime soon, which in a way sucks for the people looking for it, but on the other hand is great for us because we have an API. Right? And we've actually, I'm not too sure, like on the, like I don't think we've actually had anyone sign up with the express intent of using the API just yet, but just in the past month we've seen quite a bit of traffic coming our way from people looking for an API solution. And for anyone looking for a speech to text API solution with some solid AI analysis, hit us up. We we can help you out with that. Our dev team is quite capable of helping you integrate that into any system that you're planning to use. And feeding off of that, I was just looking at some of our kind of baseline competitors, just mainly on the speech to text front, for inspiration on how there may be trying to bring in customers to at least use the platform. And one thing we discussed yesterday as well, for instance, was this idea of eventually, once again, when capacity frees up, to create maybe a suite of very basic but free tools that people can use directly on our site without necessarily, let's say, having to sign up for our app. But in a way, it becomes a growth tool where people are like, oh, like, I need to convert my MP3 file into text, and they come our way. They're able to use it, and they're like, oh, this is cool. Let me actually sign up for the app and give it a try. And similarly, there's other features and tools we have built into Speak that could maybe be repurposed into these kind of growth tools that we can use for inbound traffic. Where I was talking about how just looking for online voice recorder has like 30,000 searches a month, and the top ranking page for that is literally a recorder widget on a page. These are like opportunities that we can leverage to then bring people in and, you know, hopefully upsell them into, cool, you know, now that you have your file transcribed or recorded, now what, right? So you recorded your file, transcribe it. Now what are you going to do with it? And hopefully that's where we can position ourselves. Because, you know, a lot of companies now can transcribe your media for you. We're just the best, right? And we can actually help you do things with your media that goes beyond just, hey, I have a transcript. And I think it's been interesting to try to build out some channels for us to potentially see people coming in, get a couple more, you know, hopefully nice customer interactions where people are letting us know what they're looking for, and helps us on various aspects on the communication and product side as well, where we're able to better understand what people are looking for, figure out how we can, you know, just serve their needs better than the next solution that they could use. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I really liked an experience with a demo that I did yesterday where the guy hadn't necessarily like he basically he thought, you know, the speech to text part, and he thought he was just gonna get like a raw JSON output, and what he hadn't realized is just like the in-depth navigation and accessibility of the platform itself. And so I think, like, you know, you talked about these little widgets that you can put on the site, or, you know, I saw, you know, the simple idea for myself is like, you know, the text, and we talked about it, like embedding like the text analysis part on the site. So it's like drop any text that you want, hit the analyze button, and you can see how the system works immediately, because there was a big jump in comprehension, but then also excitement about our application once he got into the app and realized what it was. He just thought it was just sort of like a speech to text JSON output file of structured data. So that's like, we also need to get that across, you know, and it's a tool and a mechanism for that. Personally, you know, I'm weird, not weird. I mean, of course I am weird, but that's another story. The part is that I don't really like this idea of competition. It's never been, it's just not I played too much hockey. I don't know what it was, but like, so I didn't like this idea, but the idea of the alternatives, and now to see not only are what people are searching around for some of the alternative systems that people consider besides ours, but I would say also how they're comparing those systems to other systems. Like, I found other solutions that they're searching for example, Otter versus or the script versus, that then aren't on our site that could possibly be an alternatives page at some point. I also think maybe this is too much, but like, could we help them with the comparison? You know what I mean? If someone's searching Otter versus Descript, can we help make that comparison? And then can we also add our own flavor into what we do and how that differentiates and separates? So become a really powerful resource for people who are, I've got media, or I've got a media library, I'm trying to make the most value out of it. How can I reuse it? How can I repurpose? How can I make it more accessible? And how can I make sure my investment in media and content is worthwhile? All of this can be unlocked by continuing to educate, especially if we do it in an honest, thorough, thoughtful way. So I've been great to that. And also I've had positive and negative live chats about this thing, which is, I find a lot of company will come to an alternatives page and they'll say, hey, I can see that they're viewing that page, and they'll have a live chat with me and say, you know, this system, you know, I like this system, but it doesn't do X, Y, and Z. Can your system do that? Sometimes I'm like, nah, and that sounds too hard. But other times I'm like, okay, maybe it doesn't do that now, but we're happy to discuss, you know. So it's been an educational thing of what are breakdowns in other companies' products that can be an opportunity for us. And of course, we have to validate if we want to pursue those opportunities. But if that becomes a differentiating factor for us and is valuable across many customers, markets, industries, or just use cases, that's pretty exciting. One sec about that. This live chat thing is frustrating. I want to figure this out. Is just like, okay, I can't say I'm overwhelmed because that would be ridiculous, because it's like 3 live chats a day. So I can't really say like, it's so many live chats and I can't even handle it. It's like 3 people a day. But there's definitely that pattern that's emerging about people asking the same questions. and people are also yelling at us when we're not responsive. And not having like a simple query system, or if you type something in that we automatically populate a response. So we're using Drift right now, but like we have to find a better solution. And also, if I go on vacation, which is going to happen, my mom just informed me that there's no internet at the cottage now. God damn it. And so, what am I going to do if I'm the only one accessing these live chats and we can't, and no one's responding? So, there needs to be a better system in regards to this whole thing. And ideally, it's not you three even always having to respond to it. We can automatically provide resources, and if it escalates in terms of a customer's need or we're not able to respond through our help docs or something, then a conversation happens. But that's emerged a lot because of the alternative page, those live chats. I'm thankful for it, Nihal, but I'm also mad at you. No, I'm just kidding. It's all good. I like these conversations a lot. Whew. 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tim, Lauren, any last thoughts before we wrap this up today?
I'll have a weird idea or one or two, but just the media navigation has been, I use this term a lot, but it was an elephant in the room and still is. I think media navigation is such a powerful tool, but we're not hearing much, or at least it's in my mind, but we're not hearing people asking for it. And obviously, because that's the solution we came up with, it's not that. But I'm saying this as a research opportunity in terms of how do people navigate media? I mean, yes, seeking button, you can click on that seeker and move it around, but then how powerful is the search by words and this visual representation of media itself? And just a thought, but I would love to look into this and have some qualitative data. I mean, it's a very curious question.
Two things have been really interesting. We have a team right now who uploaded all their documentary footage into our system, and they're actually creating a trailer for the documentary, and they were trying to streamline that process. And they had hundreds of hours of video that they had captured throughout the documentary filming, and they basically used the word love, found every single video that include the word love, visualized in that, opened it up, got the exact sentence, and used that to put together the final trailer for the film. And they said that saved them hours. Like when I talked to two people who used the system for that, they were like, why aren't you doing this? Like that. So that was a really amazing moment. And then yesterday, as I did that demo, the guy realized I showed him the search dashboard after he had uploaded a couple sample files, and it blew his mind, which was great. Blowing a mind isn't always like the factor of like, okay, this means it's successful. But when in a practical example, and he realizes he's going to put hundreds, if not thousands of hours into the system, and then you can search and recall anything in a second. It was a good mind-blowing experience, not just like, oh, this is cool. So cool doesn't always convert to pain solved, but in this case it did, which was wonderful. So I do believe this is a huge thing. Last part, chapters on YouTube keeps sticking out to me, but like chapters on YouTube has changed everything dramatically, I think, for how people navigate through information. So whether that's appears in snippets when you do a Google search, but then also on YouTube, I'm guessing that longer videos that have chapters are getting much higher engagement, or people likely to watch that video and stay because they can then navigate through it the way that they want. So that's obviously a hypothesis, but it just makes a lot of sense to me. And I have had that experience of this is a 50-minute video, has no chapters, versus this is a 50-minute video and it's well organized in terms of chapters. I will watch this. If I don't like this part, there might be a couple of other topics that I'm interested in that I would like to navigate to. Lauren.
I was trying to remember his name, but it's the one podcaster, Lex Friedman. He's got chapters on all of his videos, and it's always very good to just skim through and just jump to whatever's there. Is there any solutions out right now that break up videos into chapters, or is this just kind of like, how does he even do that, really?
He does it manually right now, but Nihal and I, we will not name, I'm just kidding, but we found two, I believe, solutions that are basically doing this. And some of them are only using like the sentences within the sort of like, it's almost like they're doing questions, I think, Nihal. Basically, if a question is asked within the transcript, that will become a topic. And like, we have this full capability already. It's basically just like take a question and then get the timestamp, and then all you do is take, I don't know if you've seen in the description of the video how they structure it, but it's just like number, timestamp, and then the topic, and then that will automatically put it into the YouTube video. So we have a lot of the pieces. I think with a little better topic modeling, or if we could figure out a plan, I think we could actually have a really viable solution for helping people automatically chapter all their videos in media, which would be wonderful, especially with people who have done it for years or have hundreds of thousands of hours and then want to make their system, make their library more valuable instantly.
Good.
How much work?
Okay.
Sorry, Tim.
Go ahead.
How much, this is probably just a question for Tim mostly, but how much work do you think that would be to do all that?
Right. I was just thinking, and if we could overtake that from, I mean, YouTube right now, they put so much research, obviously they did, and they came up with this chapter solution, and they are pushing for it, and people seem like, if we consider this hypothesis to be, just consider this hypothesis that Tyler pushed, is that, well, if it does help to bring more engagement, if it does help reduce brain cycles you need to sort of navigate through the media, don't use as much working memory that you need to hold on the timestamps in your mind. If we could automate all that, I mean, topic modeling or clusterization, but I would imagine that to be an acquisition thesis for YouTube for us, data acquirers. If we could automate that, because we might be competing with them for the sake, and they don't have any import tools, of course. Import of chapters, for example. I mean, not anytime soon. So,
Just thinking, look at that mind going, the beautiful mind there.
I wouldn't be able to tell you how much time I would need, but well, if we were to have something backing this thesis, to have validated it somewhat, and have enough resources to have validated it, and then hired a natural language processing engineer to have this clusterization algorithm in place, that might take that'll be done in a quarter. I mean, it's no key art task.
I'm guessing that YouTube, the smart people, are getting this people to manually label it right now so they can train their system to automatically do it in the future. So I see it as a temporary opportunity. I don't believe this will be around forever. And that's sometimes, I think, the sadness of having not necessarily the resources that you want, is like with the system that we have and the flexibility, if we had a bit more of an agile team with more resources, I think we could capture opportunities a lot quicker. Instead of like saying a quarter, it's like, no, we can do that in 3 days. And then you validate very quickly if that's worthwhile. So I hope one day we can make that happen, and not as far in the distant future as we think, because like we were even planning out milestones for one of the people we were talking to, and I was like, oh, some of these things, I'm like, I don't want that to be in March 2022. I want it now. So, I mean, that's selfish, obviously, and that's not necessarily the best way, but you know, those are the limitations of having a small team, and knowing that even if you are doing an experiment and learning from it quickly, if you have the cash flow and you have the team, then it can be a worthwhile experiment. But when it's a team our size with not that necessarily just a ton of cash is sitting there, it can be detrimental. It could be actually the death of your organization. So you also lose some of the fun that can come with that experimentation sometimes. But it also keeps you lean, keeps you focused on solving problems. So I can't complain. Lauren, any last words from you, friend? I think you should be able to close. I think you should close this out. Do you have anything else to say?
I'm just really proud of everybody, all the great work we've all been putting in, and keep it up. And let's do something spectacular.
All right, beautiful. All right, thank you to anyone who tuned in today. We missed Fatzel, of course, missed Leon, but wonderful to have you here. I think Fatzel's coming in for a wave at the end. Look at that hardworking guy there. All right, goodbye. Office Hours 23 is done. Thank you.